His new book is called White Shaming, Bullying Based on Prejudice, Virtue Signaling, and Ignorance. Please welcome to the program Associate Professor at University of Central Florida, Charles Negy. Professor, thank you so
Hi,
much for
how
taking
you
the
doing?
time. I appreciate it. Professor,
Thank you for having me on.
my pleasure. Professor, when I lived in Cleveland for a number of years, there was a pitcher named Charles Negy. Oh, he spelled his name with an A and not an E. Do you know him?
I do not. Long story for my name.
Yeah. Professor, I read your tweets. I'm trying to figure out how they're even controversial, let alone racist. All you're saying is, in the one that I just now played you, if blacks behave the same way Asians did, had the same outcome, how can you be talking about institutional racism when this is a minority group that somehow has survived in a country that is allegedly institutionally racist? What's wrong with that?
Well, good question. Twitter is kind of a blood sport. So it was kind of a rhetorical question. Perhaps I should have waited to tweet such things like that until after the current climate calms down. But it was just a kind of a flippant question.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently some students got a hold of it, and some of these students are affiliated with Black Lives Matter, and they quickly communicated with other people around the country, and here I am today.
Professor,
I have to fight for my job, perhaps.
Professor, I assume you're tenured, are you not?
I am.
Okay, well, they can't do anything to you, can they?
I don't think so,
Mm-hmm.
but right now they're being so pressured by various social groups to fire me, including the NAACP, that I think they're trying to find things in my background, or they're soliciting feedback from past students who would report to them that I've said things to them that they felt were racist. Now, my opinion is I've never done that, but we do address difficult issues in my controversial course, which is cross-cultural psychology,
Mm-hmm.
and we do have heated debates. But in my mind, I've never said anything racist because I value everyone equally.
Well, all I know, Professor Negy, is I've read all your alleged controversial tweets, including your tweet in which you said you were looking forward to my documentary called Uncle Tom, and thank you for that. And all I'm finding is somebody who says, you black people ought to stand up for yourself, assume personal responsibility, and stop bitching and moaning and whining about so-called institutional, systemic, structural racism. That's really what you're saying. And in this day and age, in 2020, one can't say that, whether you're white, frankly, or whether you're black. That's why I did the documentary called Uncle Tom. I feel pretty much the same way you feel, Professor, and I've said these kinds of things all my life, and all my life I've been called all sorts of names. I've never been called wrong. By the way, nobody called you wrong. They just called you racist.
I know. Even the way you posed that question, I think, a little more gingerly the way I posed it.
Mm-hmm.
But each one of us has their own style. And in my case, it was more of just a rhetorical question, but I wasn't losing any sleep over it. But apparently people are really up in arms over it. And for the life of me, I just don't understand. If I can say quickly, there are people who think institutional racism still exists. That's fine. I respect their views, and we can debate that and exchange ideas and then hug and still be friends afterwards. But boy, they want to declare war against me.
I think it has something to do with Trump. I've lost friendships over Trump. There's something going on in the country I've never seen before. Professor, your book is called White Shaming, Bullying Based on Prejudice, Virtue Signaling, and Ignorance. May I suggest that the fact that you said, well, maybe the timing was wrong is exactly the problem. We have a quarterback named Drew Brees who simply said the other day, I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag. That's all he said. He didn't say, I don't want people on my team kneeling. I think there ought to be a rule against it. Nothing. Just, I personally don't agree with it. That's all he said. And he's apologized for that. Now, you've already basically said you shouldn't have sent it out when you did, which is sort of an apology. I don't think it helps anything for somebody like you, Professor, not to stand up for yourself after sending out tweets that, in my opinion, were relatively innocuous. You've already said you didn't even express it as strongly as I did.
Well, the issue of whether I should apologize or not, I'm not going to apologize for what I said.
No. But you said it might have been the wrong timing. That is a form of concession. I don't know what's a good timing to say this. People are going to be ticked off no matter when you said it. You could say it on New Year's Eve. You could say it on May Day. It doesn't matter. You're still going to get hammered. And for you to say, well, I maybe shouldn't have done it right now, that's a concession. They've already got a scalp.
You may be right, but I think in light of George Floyd's brutal death and the riots and protests that have been going on in response to that.
Mm-hmm.
I concede I could have waited a little bit, but again, it's out there. It is what it is, and the content of it, I do not take it back. I do not take back the content.
Mm-hmm. Well, Professor, you hang in there. You are tenured. I can't imagine they can do anything to you. I've seen professors say far more hideous things, and nothing ever happens to them. So I don't think anything's going to happen to you. But it does suggest that your book is well timed. It's called White Shaming: Bullying Based on Prejudice, Virtue Signaling, and Ignorance, and it's out now. Professor Negy, thank you very much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. And don't forget to see Uncle Tom and check out the trailers we have up on UncleTom.com. Oh, I shouldn't have sent it out when I did. I was bad. What is that? Come on.